but yeah, there we go.
Hey there. Thanks for coming out.
What a way to make an entrance. All right. There you go. How are you guys?
Oh, we're great. Great to see everybody here down in Orlando.
Welcome back, welcome back.
Yeah,
I got to sit with you guys a couple of years ago, and a lot's happened since then. I wanted to, of course, mention everything that's been going on with Halloween Horror Nights and all the wonderful things with Killer Klowns. Can you guys tell us a little bit about what's been going on with Halloween Horror Nights?
Halloween Horror Nights?
Yeah, right? Didn't we have Killer Klowns over
This year we...
No, not this year. It was...
No, you know what? That was a big surprise for us, that Universal saw something special about Killer Klowns, and they decided to do a scare zone, which was actually you could walk through. The crowd could walk through and basically interact with clowns and the Chiodo Brothers. It was a really interesting experience.
Well, it's funny, the entertainment division at Universal, they've been lifelong Killer Clown fans, and they finally have reached a point in their career where they were the decision makers, and they got to do, scare zones and houses based on the movies that they loved growing up.
That's all it takes. You need to have the guy across the table that saw it as a kid and loved it.
Oh yeah, and we were up against films like with Stranger Things and Up at the time. And to think that a film that was 35 years old was kind of competing with those and ended up becoming one of the more popular haunts of the year.
The dynamic of the three of y'all growing up. Like, did you guys ever think that you would be working together?
You know what? We used to work in the basement all the time, making movies. We played with dinosaur sets and Army Men, and then we saw this thing where you could make your own movies. We were bitten by the monster bug very early on, watching King Kong, the work of Ray Harryhausen and Will O'Brien. And we said, you know what? They're making movies? And then we saw Famous Monsters of Filmland. We saw how they made the movies, and we started experimenting in our basement.
And in fact, you can go online and see some of our classic Chiodo Brothers films like Slud Grubs and The Beast from the Egg. And you can actually see at the end we have Chiodo Brothers Productions with our heads like the MGM Lion. So we always wanted to make movies, and it didn't really happen until we came to Los Angeles.
Yeah, you may have heard this. It was filmed in Super Kyoto Nation.
Yeah, growing up we didn't really know what the movie business was, but we just knew we wanted to create fantastic images and tell stories.
It was a form of play, because when we were young, we would play with Army Men and dinosaurs, like Charlie said, but we were telling stories with these characters as we were playing. So when we got to the camera, it was a logical transformation into making films.
Amazing. Yeah, I don't have siblings, so I don't know what it would be like working alongside, but clearly you guys made it work. You guys made it happen. What has your approach been when it comes to designing characters?
Watching Warner Brothers cartoons, watching The Little Rascals, reading Mad Magazine and seeing the art of Jack Davis and Mort Drucker, Frank Frazetta. I grew up in the 60s looking at that stuff. It was all an inspiration. Walt Kelly, Sunday Comics. I learned how to draw doing that stuff. So everything I draw now is basically a reflection of all the things that I loved and admired about those artists.
Yeah, and another little trick when we're working with all the producers, directors, other creators, they've got a character in mind. We said, well, there's like a fantasy character, says, but if it was a live action character, who would you cast in that role? Is it Jack Nicholson? Is it, Jim Carrey? Whoever it may be. And then you're trying to bring those physical attributes into the fantastical character.
But when it came to clowns, there weren't any really movie stars we would hire as a clown per se. But we wanted to make 5 distinct characters. So very simply, we would take geometric shapes. We take a triangle, we take an oval, a circle, a square, a rectangle, and create different silhouettes so that in a long shot you would be able to distinguish one clown from another without seeing any of the details. That was one of the preliminary design styles.
Yeah, we wanted to make the clowns a little different. We didn't want men in makeup. We had to make them not human. So we said, let them be monsters. So we created characters that couldn't possibly be human so that we can get away with doing all kinds of nonsense.
Oh, and specifically, we wanted to make the clowns taller in general to humans, especially the adults, to make the adults feel like children who are usually picked on by clowns.
You remember Debbie got picked up. It was her childhood fear, and she relived it when the clown picked her up off her feet and laughed in her face.
How about like the inspiration behind the unique weapons?
The craziest things we could think of. Again, the design motif is circus or carnival, colors and designs, and super soakers.
Yeah, once you get into the carnival, the circus motif, we started mining, what are things you see in the circus? Well, popcorn, cotton candy, those sorts of things, and then feel like, well, if they can use them as a weapon, how do we use it? So cotton candy is very cocoon-like, web-like, so we come up with a cotton candy ray gun sort of thing, and a popcorn shooter. So it can kind of just organic in that, it fits in that carnival circus motif.
Yeah, the design of the weapons and the clown world, came from, the influences, again, things that moved me. Pee-wee's Playhouse, the Memphis design that was used in Pee-wee Playhouse was perfect for the clowns. Play School, the kid toys and kid cars and, things, the blow-molded stuff. I wanted the clown weapons to look like toys, something that you would play with, but you find out that they're very deadly.
Yeah, Dr. Seuss, Rube Goldberg combined.
Dr. Seuss, absolutely.
Well, it's something that looked innocuous, something that didn't look deadly, that became deadly when it was too late to know.
Since you did mention Pee-wee, I wanted to ask you guys about the Large Marge sequence, if you guys could tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Stephen had a relationship early on with Tim Burton.
Yeah, I worked with Tim early on at that Vincent short that he did. And Large Marge was one of the shots that I didn't want to do. We didn't know how to do it, really. But we kind of, hunkered down and figured out. We did a head casting of the actress, Alice Nunn, made a clay positive, and then I just animated it frame by frame. The key thing that made it look as kind of real as it did look, we used Alice Nunn's wig, the wig that was used in this shot. We used her wardrobe, and we even used her makeup. Actually painted the clay so it looked more like her flesh. But even with all our technology, I still had to animate it one frame at a time. It took about 12 hours to get that one.
Yeah, and I think you animated, what, 36, 38 frames?
Yeah.
And then like the final cut is just over a second. They actually cut the whole beginning of it because it didn't work in the timing of the cut, what Tippett wanted.
Yeah, there was a beginning where she actually blinks, opens her eyes and turns into Large Marge. Well, the first half of that took the most time to keep the character alive. And then just the burst of her turning into Marge it took a little bit longer, I guess. Changing the eyes, adding the nose, screwing up the teeth, changing the entire flesh of the character. But that's all they used, and I think it was really wise. It was a really beautifully designed scene, a real boo cut that nobody expected in that film. So we're really happy, very fortunate we were involved in that scene.
I wanted to know, what has been like the most challenging puppet or creature or claymation thing that you guys have ever created?
Team America?
Team America, yeah.
Marionette movies are, very difficult. Jerry Anderson in Great Britain mastered it. He had his whole career based on, even though he had aspirations of being a live action director, he wound up doing the best super marionation, shows through his whole career. And basically, Matt and Trey wanted to just make fun of it because they had seen it and said, hey, let's do a feature film and see if we can make a marionette movie. They regretted that.
They work in animation, and they've done live action occasionally, but they hate working with actors. So they thought, let's make a movie but not use actors, let's use puppets, it'll be easy. They'll do whatever, puppets will do whatever we tell them to do. They hadn't a clue that working with puppets and puppeteers is 10 times more difficult than working with actors.
There's a reason why you don't see a lot of marionette movies out there.
And on top of that, they said, let's do a Michael Bay movie with marionettes. The original script was the climax was happening on the Golden Gate Bridge with the Korean Navy coming into the bay, school buses crossing the thing. They said, you want to do this with what?
While an earthquake is happening.
But those guys are really great to work with. I mean, the word genius is used maybe too often in Hollywood. But these are the two hardest working guys, and they were there every day. And Trey, and they were rewriting the script every day. So we didn't know what we were going to shoot the next day. So Trey would come in with the dialogue in his mind, and he would operate, let's say, 5 of the radio-controlled radios that operated the mouths in the puppets. They were like little, really animatronic robot puppets. And he would do all the voices and do all the dialogue. And this for the first time.
Yeah, sometimes when the cameras are rolling, we'd hear dialogue for the first time. In fact, they're like on Mount Rushmore, Gary and Lisa, the brothers with the blueberries in his pockets and the gorilla. The cameras were rolling the first time we heard that, and the puppeteers were laughing. You could actually see the puppets shaking because they were laughing. So it was like the hardest 9.5 months we've ever had on any project, but in a lot of ways it's like right up there with like the most rewarding because the end result is just so spectacular.
Yeah, it was like it was mounting an army for every setup, because every setup was different. Sometimes the strings were strung at 4 feet, and then we had a 15-foot gantry for a wide shot, so we had to put like 10 puppeteers on top, hanging 15-foot strings, getting the monitors and the sound up there. It took almost forever to get one shot up. So ultimately, we had how many setups going at the same time?
We had five units going on simultaneously at one point. It was just massive. We employed, one day we had 88 puppeteers in, operating 66 puppets. We built like 80 puppets and we made them into over 300 characters. It was just a massive undertaking. Incredible crew that we worked with, monumental effort, but like I said, it's one of the most rewarding things we worked on.
Now, everybody had input. You had the best puppeteers around, but the funny had to come from Matt and Trey. There was no improvisation allowed. The saving grace on it, we would still be filming it now, that we had to have all the puppets walking realistically and stuff. We actually did a video of a fight scene where we rolled a puppet up in a ball and rolled it. It came out from behind, popped up from behind, rolled in a gunfight and rolled behind a bunch of boxes, and we had a puppet jump up. We put rods behind the arm so we could throw punches and hit him in the face. Because puppets only went like this, like that. They saw the reel and they were impressed by it. Goes, no, we only want what the marionettes could do. So you have a fight like this. They thought it was hysterical. Whatever made them laugh worked, otherwise we'd still be shooting now.
But that was the brilliance of the guys. That's just it. They just wanted to see the marionettes do what they do. It was a super slick team of action figures. And if they acted like that, it wouldn't have been funny. But the contrast of the marionettes kind of bumping into something and rolling around and fighting like that, that's where the humor came from. These serious characters acting like puppets. So kudos to those guys. They really made a funny movie.
Yeah, we made the articulation on the thing, the lip sync on the puppets. They were pronouncing every syllable. When they saw it, they said, "This is too scary. Can we just make them go?"
We wanted to look like Charlie.
I love it. So how do you balance like the technical aspects with the artistic and creative elements?
Well, you start with the creative. You think about what it is you want to make, what you want to express with the puppets. Like Charlie said, is it comedy? Is it scary? And you start with that. Is it realistic? Is it a character? And then you develop a technique based on that.
For us, as a company, we're well versed in a lot of different stop motion animation, puppetry, costumes, really everything. But we don't let the strengths of our company from a technical standpoint define what the character is. We let the character define the technique, because the character is the one that propels the story. You've got the audience connection in that character and the action through that character. So that's where it comes from. So sometimes it is a puppet, sometimes it's a CG character in some cases, but it's all about how does that character connect with the audience to propel that story forward.
Yeah, the difficulty is sometimes second guessing the director on it. We try to put our input in, and we realize that we're going too far. They want it simpler, or sometimes they want it more complex. The great thing is when you got a director and a crew that pushes you to do something you wouldn't normally do, and it works out great.
Here we have an example with Jon Favreau on Elf. John does do comic illustrations. He's a good artist. So with the narwhal character, he did a quick little sketch. Well, something like this. I want the horn to kind of break the water like the Chrysler building, So Charlie did maybe 50 sketches, different character sketches.
Narwhal, really cute, realistic.
He looked at it, no. He goes, I just want something simple. So then we went back to his original drawing. We just redrew his original drawing, and guess what? That's the one he picked.
Was this trip really necessary? It was my fault. I just tried to bring something. You know, in the past, a guy came in with an alien puppet, and he said, you know, can you guys make this puppet? And I said, well, do you want something more realistic? Because like an E.T.? And he goes, oh, all right, okay. So I did all these drawings of this thing, and he goes, well, really, I just want you guys to know if you can make the puppet. I said, oh, we're not puppet builders. So he left. Then we saw Alf on TV. I was going to redesign Alf Fam.
If it's okay with you guys, we do have a microphone in the audience for whatever questions you guys may have. Now is your opportunity to ask. Any first willing victims that have questions? If not,
We can't see you.
yeah. Anybody? You want? Okay. In the meantime,
Don't
there
be
they go.
shy.
Okay. What's your name? What's your question?
Brian. Yeah, of course, I love Killer Klowns from Outer Space. Now, how do you create the scenes when you guys, okay, you shoot the popcorn out, right? And then the popcorn starts moving by itself, and then before it starts to morph into more clowns. But how do you guys create that effect with the popcorn's like moving like that?
Organic
Floor popcorn.
A special organic popcorn. Are you talking about the little one on the bathroom floor kind of creeping like an inchworm?
Well, that one, but the whole thing, you sell a whole bunch of things of popcorn and they all start kind of like moving as if before they start morphing into more clowns, you know? So how do you create the thing moving like that, like the popcorn like
Yeah,
moving?
you know, simplicity is the key. You can put robots and electronics and servo motors and radios on it, but the simple way to approach it is the best way. That was just a little foam popcorn with two rods on it, and in the grout of the tile on the floor, we just had two rods going.
Oh, that's really cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and for the bigger effect where Rudy comes out with the popcorn gun and shoots it at Mike and Debbie, that was actually a very sophisticated prop. That was a pneumatic ram. It was a pressurized chamber that we would load popcorn in like a blunderbuster, and it was pressurized with air. And when we put the trigger, it released all this air and shot the popcorn out.
It was a popcorn shotgun. In some of the early testing, the mechanism flew out and hit the performer, or the guy who was building it, in the stomach and knocked him out. He was all right, but it could have been bad.
He had a big bruise for weeks.
Yeah. Good thing you didn't have it lower. And then the spray of popcorn, that basically we just loaded popcorn in an air ram when they were blown out of the tent. And I think Fantasy 2 did an optical with popcorn flying when they were being pursued in the tent by the popcorn after the shot.
But it's funny, in post-production, when we were editing, we brought a bunch of the sets back to our studio, and there's one shot where I set up the set vertically, so it was laying down, standing up straight up and down instead of going horizontally, and I got a big trough, filled it up with popcorn, and I just put a string on it, and I turned the camera on, and I just pulled the string and dumped the popcorn so it went through the frame. So when I had the camera mounted sideways, so when we got the film back, projected sideways, it looked like it was shooting through the frame, left to right. Just like little simple movie tricks.
Yeah, so all those shots was maybe 6 different techniques to get that sequence shot.
And we used real popcorn for the most of it.
And we used real balloons for the balloon drop.
Great question. What's your name? What's your question?
I'm Carly. I'm curious about how you got involved in Marcel The Shell project, because that's my personal favorite of yours.
Marcel The Shell was quite a departure from the other stuff we've done.
Yeah, we got that. Oh, quick story. I teach at Cal Arts. It's an art institute in California. We teach animation and filmmaking. And one of my grad students, Kirsten Lepore, graduated. She started her little career out there, and then one day she called up and said, I'm working on this thing called Marcel The Shell. Would you guys want to produce it for us? And
she had met Dean Fleischerkamp and Jenny Slate at a film festival, or just she had one of her movies on, and they were there exhibiting something else, whatever. And then, yes, they approached her to help develop it into a feature film. And she came to us because she didn't have any real background in real hardcore production. So we started out working on that movie in August of 2014. 7 years we worked on that project. They came to us and we basically came up with a blueprint on how to execute their vision, their ideas, their dream.
Yeah, it was really kind of complicated, I guess. Eventually what happened was they created not a screenplay, but they did a teleplay. They did a radio play of improv back and forth. And then they used that as a resource for writing a screenplay. Then they did an animatic, which is like an animated storyboard, like a comic strip, panels of the entire movie. That's what Kirsten was doing, developing that with the director. And it was really remarkable that even at that simple stage of a little drawn, simple cartoon, it was so powerful and sensitive that we were really inclined to do it. And then we shot the film 2 more times. We shot
The live action version of it, where we took that animatic and made the live action
background
plates. But then we would have little puppet versions of Marcel that we do reference takes to get some basic timing down of what the action would be. So then we went off and edited that live action movie, and then we went back and replaced Marcel, all the stop motion components, into that movie. So that whole process took almost 2 years of the 7. This is quite remarkable, and it's finding its audience. It's just a delightful little movie. You guys should check it out. Because like Charlie said, it's quite the departure from what we're kind of known for.
To me, the challenge of it was, in order for the story to work, you had to take this 1-inch shell and her characters and the other characters and composite them flawlessly for the story to work. And it was done flawlessly.
Oh yeah, our post-production crew was just brilliant. But for those who haven't seen the film, it's not a kid's film, although children will enjoy it. But it's a really heartfelt, emotional film, and I think you really enjoy it. It's one of the nicest projects we've ever worked on in our career.
Yeah, there's no clowns or monsters in it.
Thank you.
Great question. Go ahead.
My name is Carl, and my question is just pretty basic. As far as the Killer Klowns go, what is your favorite clown? Whether or not it's their look or their attitude, just what is your guys' favorite clown?
Well, I'm partial. My favorite things in the world are clowns and dinosaurs. I draw them all the time. So Clownzilla is my favorite aesthetically. I played Clownzilla, so I'm partial to that. The scariest clown to me, in terms of attitude, was the puppet clown, Spiky, and he came up, and that laugh is one of terror and fear. So yeah, I think Spiky's my favorite regular clown.
Yeah, for me it's probably Jumbo, and which actually we called Killer during the production of the movie for good reason, because he's the clown that goes in and confronts Officer Mooney in the police station. And for me, that sequence is just like I think it's the scariest part of the movie. It's where the movie takes a really dark turn, where our characters are in real jeopardy, that life and death is purely at stake there. And just the way he screws around with Officer Mooney, and then what he does to him is just like the great moment for me. I love that sequence, so that character.
Yeah, and my favorite sequence is the shadow gag. I mean, the way I had originally envisioned it really came to being in the final analysis. And so I guess it was Slim. Slim was that clown. So yeah, that's my favorite sequence and clown.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
I'm Hannah. I love Killer Klowns. I'm 8 years old. I'm a fan. Did you think it'll be as big as a hit as it is when he first made the film?
Oh, I never imagined. Never. We just made a film that we wanted to see based on the movies and the sci-fi films we saw in the 50s and 60s. And we're really pleased that other people embrace it as much as they have.
Yeah, what we did is we put a Chiodo Brothers spin on these scenes and movies that we loved growing up. We didn't want to just repeat it and regurgitate and tell the same story. So we took the certain gags, and we took the idea of people wrapped up in cocoons, like you've seen in a Spire movie or the Beast from the Haunted Cave. And we said, well, how can we play with that? Oh, what if it was cotton candy? So we basically took the circus motifs and used them, the power chamber from the Forbidden Planet. We figured, what more appropriate than an homage to, Forbidden Planet by having the clown spaceship have, a room that was as big as the one in Forbidden Planet, the lair of the Krells, the lab of the Krells.
And even footprints all over the jail cell. That's a direct rip from the Looney Tunes, Dr. Twacey.
The fact that you guys are still responding to it 35 years later, did we know? I don't think we really knew, again, than the fact that we thought we made it an okay movie.
What is it? It's a continuation. We loved and we put a little spin on it and passed it on. You're enjoying it. Many of you will pass it on in the things that you do. So I guess it keeps going. The creative thing goes on, influenced by other creative people. So that's what's rewarding about it, that 35 years later, Killer Klowns is still around. And will be around longer than we will probably.
Yeah, and we still want more of it too.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. Good.
Hi guys, Steve. I would like to thank you guys for terrifying me as a child, because that got me off of clowns. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
When you guys were, I feel like, how do you feel seeing Killer Klowns and not just morph out of the medium of movies, but morph into different mediums, like she was talking about the Halloween Horror Nights, and even the Killer Klowns from Outer Space video game coming up very soon. How do you feel about those the movie going into other possible mediums down the road?
Oh, we're really excited about every iteration of the film. And I think we're really pleased that they've kind of captured the essence of what we tried to do. The haunts were great. The toys reflect the design style that we had, which is pretty unique. And even the fan art, with all the different styles that are created, they still reflect the iconic characters that we have in the film.
Well, that's what's really exciting too, that it's inspired a new generation of artists, and they've taken the original vision that Charlie started and just have made it into new styles, new expression. It's just great to see other people's take on that character and that concept. So it's some of the artwork that we're seeing on t-shirts, personal artwork that people bring, it blows us away. It's quite the homage.
It's quite thrilling to have known that you've inspired other creative artists to follow a motion picture career or an art career, and they thank us for it. We didn't get to thank some of the people that inspired us, but we owe them, a debt of gratitude. It's very rewarding. The fact that 35 years later we can enjoy this. It could have happened earlier, possibly, but now is such a great time. Video games are better than ever. The technology for toys, the stuff that I'm seeing being done is amazing. The merchandising that's being done on Killer Klowns. Hopefully this will be enough to get us to convince somebody that we need to see a Killer Clown episodic series.
Yeah, and that's really up to you guys too. With your support, this is going to convince the powers that be that this is more than just a cult film, that in fact is a pop culture icon.
Hi, I'm Tony, huge fan of your work. I was wondering, do you have any examples of times that you maybe had to like jimmy rig something on set, like with practical effects, where you were surprised you guys pulled it off, and you saw it on screen, it was like, oh, it looks good, but maybe behind the scenes, if you knew what was going on, it'd be more surprising.
It's all about problem solving, and you moving by the seat of your pants. You're just trying to figure stuff out. You got crews, highly paid crews waiting on you to solve a problem. Each one has its own. Rigging stuff for the marionettes was difficult. Doing this, on set, rigging a puppet and having it hit a mark. I think the most difficult scene was like the pizza scene, where we had three, guys in suits with limited visibility. We had a stack of pizza boxes, but the animatronic head of Shorty popping up, and he has to stare. His eye line had to be very specific. We had another actor wriggling his little hand up with the gun, and he had to get it up, level it, and follow the same eye direction. 30 takes later, so that's the difficulty of working with puppets and rigging effects.
Yeah, I mean, it's something like, which should have been pretty straightforward, but like the clown floating outside the car.
Ooh.
That was the inspiration of the movie. That's the genesis of Steven's original idea that really was supposed to open up the movie. We had this, worked with a great effects artist who developed a rig that was an outrigger on a real car that would allow the clown to basically see on a rail that would move up and down alongside the car. It had a wheel at the front that allowed him to go in and out as well. And we had headlights attached to his feet, so it looked like he was floating out there. It worked great. We were in this giant warehouse. We tested it, worked beautifully up and down. But when we went out to location to shoot it at night, in the middle of the night, we didn't have a huge budget. We didn't have a really extensive crew. The first time we shot it, the lighting was terrible. We got dailies back several days later. It was unusable footage.
You might as well have shot it in a black sound.
Yeah, but it's something that was so critical to, in our minds, critical to because it was the genesis of the movie. That was the germ of the idea. So we wanted to reshoot it, but we didn't have time in the schedule. So Steven accelerated shooting. He started making little compromises here and there to build that time in the schedule, and he got a half a day back on the schedule. We got ahead. So we put it back on the schedule. We went to another location, lit it, took our time, lit it better, but then we found out that road was horrible. It was bumpy as hell. So that footage was unusable. And then we went back, when we finished shooting, we never got the time to reshoot it again. And then we were trying to put it together in editorial. We had Fantasy 2 do a couple of effects cuts. And Steven and I we threw our hands up. This is never going to work. But then Charlie went back in with our editor, Chris Roth, and cut the sequence that you see in the movie. He salvaged it. It wasn't enough to tell the story that we wanted to be in the beginning of the movie, the opening, the pre-title sequence. But he salvaged enough of it that it's in the movie.
Yeah, we revealed the first cut was you see a clown floating following the car, which gave away the gag. That was supposed to be the payoff after he sees through the window a clown leering at him. I didn't want to throw out the stop motion animation that the cut that Fantasy 2 has done. So the only way to use it was to use it at that moment. So the sequence was a little altered from the original, Steven's original conception, but I wanted that gag in there. And what's great is a floating car gag is going to be in the video game.
Thank you.
All right, we got a few minutes left. What's your question?
My question is, you mentioned a minute ago that with our support that perhaps we could have some sort of episodic Killer Klowns thing happen. What does that support look like specifically? How can we help you?
You're already doing it by attending things like this, by purchasing the wealth of merchandise that's out there from Spirit Halloween and all the Hot Topic. You go on Hot Topic, you can order things that, I've seen rooms filled with it. I don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
That's how you support, by basically making the merchandise real for them, and then they'll produce more and more. If you stop
Yeah,
on-
officially there is nothing happening on the sequel front right now.
Right.
Because friends get angry when they hear that the sequel and it doesn't happen. But no, actually the video game is happening. It's real. It's going to be out next year, and with everything Charlie just said, the merchandising, the consumer products, the licensing aspect of it, the video game is an opportunity to show that this isn't just a little niche, pop culture thing, that there is some mainstream, real world love for it. And you guys, this is a great turnout. We love it. They see it on a balance sheet in terms of revenue, and that's what the movie business is about. It's it has to be profitable for them. It has to be worthwhile, and licensing consumer products is a big part of that. And the video game is a great opportunity to continue to show the love.
Yeah, the thing that's remarkable about Killer Klowns from Outer Space is it has a huge demographic of all ages. It's not just for horror fans. Little kids, 2-year-olds, are theming it for their birthday parties. Adults, grandparents, parents and children are buying the backpacks, the blankets, the pillows. They're decorating their homes with it. They have rooms dedicated to clown merchandise. We have generations now of people not taking toys out of the boxes and putting them on the shelf. And that's what's amazing. So it's a new phenomenon, but it bridges all generations and all demographics. That's what's neat about clowns.
So thank you guys so much, and we really appreciate you guys being here. Before we let you guys go, any thoughts you guys want to leave us with here this weekend?
Well, like these guys are saying about the merchandising, it's right now we're currently working with the marketing division of MGM to help create more product out there. But they don't really make that much money on the films themselves. It really is like the Disney model. It's the merchandise that really pushes a product. So that's what we're doing right now. I think your enthusiasm with the project, hopefully that the material that's being produced, the items are in tune with the psychology and the fun of the film, so we'll continue making that, and hopefully it'll build up to something bigger and for all of us.
Yeah, we can, if this happens, it's our dream to continue. We've had 35 years of frustration wanting to tell more clown stories, and we hope that we're able to do so.
Yeah, well, we've got plans. We've got plans, to continue this saga, with new clown adventures, reintroducing, getting reacquainted with old characters we know and love. There's a lot of clown creative left in us, and hopefully one day we'll get to be able to share it with you all.
Well, until then, thank you guys so much. This has been such a joy.
Thank you.